I'm sharing with you some thoughts on the grace of God. In my own words, grace is when you are treated better than you deserve after committing an offense. Grace is undeserved mercy. Grace is undeserved goodness. Grace is undeserved kindness. The Old Testament is full of traces of grace, despite the fact that the grace of God had not yet manifested on earth by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. When Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, they covered themselves with leaves. But God, who is rich in grace, saw that the leaves wouldn't last long on their bodies. So he kills an animal, or animals I believe, and removes skins from them. He begins making garments for the rebellious couple. Oh, what a gracious God we serve. After making the garments, the Bible says, and he clothed them. No matter how sinful you may be, God's grace sustains you. God's grace holds your breath. God's grace keeps you from moving naked. God's grace provides for you. God's grace makes you do exploits even in your sinful state. When Cain killed Abel, God sentenced him to a life of struggle. I mean, a life of being a vagabond, a life of being a wanderer. But I don't know how Cain discerned the heart of grace in God. He pleaded with God to say, "This punishment is too heavy to bear, and whoever finds me shall kill me." Then God made a decree to say, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be upon him 7 times. Oh, what a gracious God we have. This is a person who has rebelled against God. He has angered God, and yet God hears his petition. He promises him protection and places a mark on him so that whoever finds him should not kill him. Hey, I know some of you may have other reasons as to why God protected Cain, but I'm looking at it from a grace perspective. God is so gracious that he extends a heart of grace to a sinner. In the Gospel according to St. Matthew chapter 5 verses 44 to 45, Jesus says, "But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust." It's not your knees that gave you the good life you are enjoying. It's not your fasting that raised you to that position in life. It's just by God's grace. No matter how sinful you may be, no matter how evil you may be, God's grace sustains you. God's grace makes you strong. God's grace protects you. Therefore, surrender your life to him. Live to worship him. Stay blessed.